Let's bring in the voice of the 49ers. So, Greg, when you're at the Super Bowl, we're getting ready to call the game. Are you going to go to Gronk's beach party?
Yeah.
He is from my hometown. He is from Williamsville. 6-hour open bar? Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
No trouble can be had there.
Is this the night before the Super Bowl or Thursday?
I think it's during.
What are we talking about? It's during the Super Bowl.
Now,
Well, I'm going to be busy. I'm going to be calling the football game.
Yeah, that's the right answer.
now,
The question is, will Gronk's former team be in the game? Or will it be the Buffalo Bills maybe in the game? Or the Baltimore Ravens in the game? So, yeah, that'd be, I think that's Groundhog's Day. That's going to be a hell of a Groundhog's Day memory if we do get there on February the 2nd.
this brings up a very fascinating thing because Greg Papa is from the Buffalo, New York area. You said Williamsville, and that's where Gronk is from. I don't see any of this in you, but now I'm starting to make connections because every week we get entertained by Bills fans bashing themselves in the face with a table or something, and that kind of fits Gronk's personality. Is that something that is semi-unique to that area where everybody's just basically a daredevil and has a titanium skull?
We call them boneheads. There. I don't know if there's a direct correlation to the consumption of Jenny cream ale, which is right out of the river, which is not a great thing. Not too far away from the Love Canal years ago. But the Bills fans are incredibly passionate. I mean, they just go crazy, and it's one of those towns. The 49ers are playing the Packers on Sunday. It's a lot like, it's bigger than Green Bay, obviously. But it just has that feel, and when you pull up the Lambeau Field, there's a Piggly Wiggly right next to it. So I think they actually shut down the Piggly Wiggly to park cars. I mean, out here, it's Great America shuts down, right? In the Midwest, Piggly Wiggly. And in Buffalo, they're actually homes, because it's in the South Towns, they called it there, Orchard Park, south of the city, the snow belt, where they get all the snow. But there are actually homes that are right in the parking lot. I mean, and they love the above-ground pools in Buffalo. So you'll see a lot of times early in the year or in August when they're playing a preseason game or September before the winter hits, you see somebody lounging in their above-ground pool. And you're going into the game right by the ticket taker. The guy's, sitting right there. He's, right off the corner of the stadium. So when you get into these small communities, and Foxborough feels a lot like that, too, because you're out in the middle of suburban nowhere, New England. You're 45 minutes from Providence and 45 minutes from Boston. It has a very similar feel, but it's a great vibe. It's a great vibe, and the Bills are playing well. So you never know. You never know.
Well, kind of on that same theme, Greg. You've been to all the stadiums, all the places, combining, I don't know, history, your location where you broadcast from, the atmosphere, all that stuff. Where is your favorite place to broadcast from?
Well, it's Levi's now. It used to be the Black Hole. No, as far as road venues, I like Denver Stadium. I think that's and that one's been open for a long time. I think right after they won the, back-to-back in 97, 98, they left Old Mile High and what do they call it, Invesco Field, Sports Authority Field, whatever it is. I mean, it's just state-of-the-art. I mean, the visitor locker room there is as good as any home locker room in the whole league. So it's that good of a stadium, and our broadcast booth is just fabulous. I do like Seattle. I like the stadium and the way it's constructed, but the booth isn't as good as Denver's, and that's always just so dark and dank, and they wear those dark green uniforms. It looks like they're all a bunch of losers, and you can't see anything, and it's an assault on all the senses. But then they pump in the crowd noise. All that. Now that I'm talking. I mean, still the best is Arrowhead. I love Arrowhead. I mean, it's an Arrowhead they remodeled quite a bit. I actually liked the old Arrowhead when it was a little bit dirty and grungy. I remember the old elevator with the wood doors were all just faded and it was awful. But it had that feel, right after they moved from Municipal Stadium in 71 into Arrowhead in 72. So those stadiums all opened together. Arrowhead opened in 72. It was known as Rich Stadium, now it's Ralph Wilson Stadium, and Buffalo opened in 73. And Giant Stadium, which no longer exists, was a great stadium, and that opened in 74, but they got MetLife now. So I am partial to Arrowhead. Arrowhead's probably the best one.
Greg Papa with us. I want to go back to this Cardinals game very specifically because there's an alternate story other than the Niners coming back and winning. After we played your call of that end of the game defensive touchdown and your abbreviated touchdown SF, I have a theory, I'm sure I'm wrong, that was an abbreviated call because as somebody who's watched football for as long as you have, I felt like you knew that wasn't going to end up being a touchdown or it was very questionable, and so you abbreviated your call, and then they ended up letting the touchdown stand for reasons I don't get. Am I off?
Well, I mean, and DJ Reed, I should apologize to him. DJ Reed Jr. scored that touchdown, but he probably doesn't care. I just didn't like the whole play at the end, and the 49ers did score, so it was exciting. I think I said touchdown SF, but on the post game I said TDSF.
Right.
So I wanted to go as short and sweet as I could. But I don't like that the multiple backwards passes. And Stanford's playing Cal this weekend in the big game, and that's probably the ultimate one.
Yep.
And speaking of Buffalo, I still think that Music City Miracle was just bogus, and that was a forward pass. But I almost, just watching it, I think you're vulnerable to a lot of injuries in that situation. I think it's just odd. And the ball was on the ground. So two of their linemen, Justin Pugh, I think, and J.R. Sweezy, if I have my memory correct, 67 and 64, just grabbed the ball. One of them grabbed it and threw it backwards. And I wasn't sure if he was touchdown or not, and it went back the other way. But I'm big for when the game is over, let's let the game be over and not have these athletes play any more snaps than they have to in a vicious, violent game where they get injured on real snaps. So if there's any situation where you can kneel the game out, I'm always in favor of that. So I thought it was a weird play. I almost got thinking, and Mike Pereira comes on my radio, any sentiment of the league to do it, that you need to limit the amount of backwards passes on a single play to maybe one. Now, you do get into toss sweeps, as a toss sweep, a backwards pass, yes, and then one up the back throws it back, and that's a flea flicker. I probably wouldn't want to do away with that. That's a good football play. But on these ridiculous, multiple lateral situations, I just think it's chaos on the field. You got guys running different directions, and it's you could get guys depleted and hurt in a situation like that. So it was the 49ers scored it. But overall, I think it's a little bit of a carnival act, and it may be something they want to look to eliminate.
Greg, we talked to you a couple weeks ago, maybe even before that Thursday night game with the Cardinals, and there was about a 4-week stretch where that Niners defense was absolutely dominant. Now, the last 3 weeks, they've given up some more yards, some more points. They still have gone 2-1 and really could have won the Seattle game. What have you seen differently in maybe the last 3 weeks from the defense that hasn't been as dominant as the stretch they were in before?
The Arizona tempo, the air raid bothered them. And Cliff Kingsbury, Arizona's coach, did not jump into it on Halloween night until the second half. Maybe it was because it was a Thursday night game and they were playing on a short week and he just didn't want that many snaps and his athletes were fatigued. I'm not sure. But they got behind 21-7 at halftime. And then they came out in it, and I think it bothered the 49ers, there's no doubt. The Seattle game, that was a different game. That was the 49ers offense giving Seattle either a touchdown or a point-blank scoring opportunity deep in their end. So I think the defense played great that night. It's just the offense turned the ball over and gave Seattle their scoring chances. So that was different. And then this Sunday, Arizona jumped right into the no-huddle to open the game. And the crowd was a little late to arrive. There wasn't the energy in the stadium early that there was later. And they got ahead, and it was 16-0. And I think that game, may get really sideways if Christian Kirk doesn't drop that in-cut over the middle of the field. He was wide open, and he would have had a lot of room to run after he got his hands on the ball. If he catches that ball, then it may get just too big of a deficit for even Jimmy to come back. So I think the defense is fine, but I think now the intriguing thing is, will the Packers and Aaron Rodgers jump in?
I think we get this spot every week.
I think every week.
And actually, he just completely went.
Yep, it's the exact same spot. We got to find out where that is.
Yes.
Caldecott Tunnel, that's what I say. Yeah, we'll get him back on. Greg always goes through that little. I think he's going to the same place.
Yeah.
No, to practice.
I think he's going to practice right here.
Yeah, so it's the exact
right in the middle of the interview.
Seems like he's scheduled perfectly.
Yeah.
But as a Niner guy, I'm going to ask Greg to. Well, we'll let him finish his thought here real quick.
Yeah, because Greg, you're talking about the Aaron Rodgers there.
Yeah, whenever I get on Crow Canyon Road, I cut through to get over to 680 to get on. I'm going to the 49ers today, so I got to take a different route every time I get on this road. I think finally in my 8th week of the year talking to you guys, that this is I probably should have picked up on that earlier. Anyway, so the no huddle I think bothered the 49ers defense. That's the common denominator for me. So then would Green Bay jump into the no huddle and play the quick game? Because obviously Aaron Rodgers is really good at it, and the 49ers have shown on tape that their defense is somewhat vulnerable to it.
Greg, as a Niner fan, as you know, I'm looking at this stretch, which is like the most difficult in NFL history at this point, these next 3 games. It would be one thing if this team was full force going up against Green Bay, New Orleans, Baltimore, but they're dealing with injuries. Is there something you can tell me with your knowledge, maybe that Arizona was a tougher matchup in a weird way than Green Bay? I don't know, to make me feel like they're not going to go 0-3, 1-2 over the next 3?
Well, no, I think Green Bay's a better team than Arizona. They're different. Obviously, Kyler Murray is just different, and his running ability didn't bother the 49ers. But Aaron Rodgers is not going to run for a touchdown, but he'll run to keep it alive. He's really good at that, and he'll make a big play off the off-schedule play. He's really good at that, obviously, and he is just one of the special arm talents in the league. I think his arm, it's a whippy kind of arm, much like a Jeff George or an arm from previous generations. Patrick Mahomes probably has a better arm, but outside of that, there are not too many guys that have the kind of arm talent that he has, and then he's got the brain. So, he's got the brain of a Brady and a Manning, but then he's got this whippy arm, and he's just really good. So they're good. I think, they're not a great team. I think there's some vulnerabilities on their defense. They got off to a great start. The first 3 games, I thought this is the best defense Aaron Rodgers has ever had. And I think they're okay. You got to deal with the 2 guys, the 2 Smith brothers on the outside, and they're not related, Zadarius and Preston, and they're different players. Zadarius is a powerful player. He wears number 55, and Preston's number 91. He's got long arms, not quite as long as Alden Smith, but they're long, like Jadeveon Clowney and Chandler Jones, that kind of arm length. So he's a problem. So they're good. The thing is, Dave, you're not going to play them, it's not going to be a triple header on Sunday.
Right.
You're going to play them one at a time. And they're all very different. From what Green Bay poses to Baltimore is very different, obviously, with Lamar Jackson, all the 3 tight ends they have on the field, and their defense. And then Drew Brees and Sean Payton are very different than what they do. But I think they all have good running games. They all have good defenses. And they all have elite quarterbacks. I mean, Lamar's different. I'm not going to put him on the level of guys that have won Super Bowls and have the great arm talent like Aaron and Drew Brees, but he's obviously different with his ability to run. So I saw this schedule, months ago when it first came out in April, and I knew the Baltimore-New Orleans portion, and then after that, Atlanta, the Rams, Seattle. We all knew that you had to stack. The question was, how good would Green Bay be? And Aaron Rodgers was hurt last year. Otherwise, every year, he was hurt the entire year. He got hurt the very first game against the Bears. And he played hurt the whole year, so they weren't as good. But when he's right, they're good, obviously. So we knew this would be a really difficult portion of the schedule, right around Thanksgiving. And you just need to bank as many wins as you can before these last 6. And the fortunate thing is they banked 9. I mean, they're 9-1. So that's an incredible record going into the stretch, and then we'll see what they can do with it.
Let me ask you this, and this may be an unfair question right now, but assuming there's no crazier injuries and et cetera, of those 3 games, Green Bay, Baltimore, New Orleans, is there a matchup that you like more than the other 2 that stands out? I haven't studied Baltimore and New Orleans enough. I keep an eye on New Orleans every week.
I think New Orleans is really good.
Yeah.
But I think the 49er pass rush and the size of their line would bother Drew Brees. You know, you're talking about injuries, Dave, and I think the one that's really a concern is Dee Ford. Just not having Dee Ford, and he's going into the sub package now because of the quad of the knee injuries he had to deal with all year. But when he sacked Kyler Murray on Sunday, he ran directly off the field with a hamstring, and the head coach said maybe a couple of weeks. So, you know, they have Bakhtiari, David Bakhtiari, and Brian Bulaga, the tackles with the Packers. And I think there's some vulnerability there with speed. But if you don't have Dee Ford, then they're going to send either a double team or a chipper or, you know, slide protection to Bosa's way. It'll make him less impactful. So, I mean, they're all good. They're all different. They're all 8-2. They all lead their division right now. They all present different challenges. I think the 49ers can beat each one. But the question is, you know, what's the health going to be? Can Kittle or Sanders go? And how long is Dee Ford going to be out? Because you'd like to have Dee Ford's speed against Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, not just to sack him, but to chase him down.
You know, Greg, obviously the Niners still control their destiny in this division, but just this weekend, what do you think about, you know, the Rams they have to keep winning or they're going to be gone soon, and they play the Ravens on Monday night. And then you got Seattle on the road in Philly. This could end up being a great weekend for the Niners if they win and those other teams potentially lose. What do you think about that Seahawks-Eagles matchup and then even the Rams-Ravens?
Well, Seattle's coming off their bye, and that'll help them. But Seattle's got 2 tough games off their bye at Philadelphia and Minnesota. So those are 2 good teams. And then the Rams, they keep hanging around. And I watched their Sunday night game against the Bears, and it was one big play when Goff and Cooper Kupp over the top, but the defense is much better since they got Jalen Ramsey. The bottom line is the 49ers have 9 wins, Seattle has 8, the Rams have 6. And I don't know if all 3 can make the playoffs. I would venture to guess that one from the NFC North would make it, whoever does not win the division between Vikings or Packers. But it's possible all 3 make it from the NFC West. I think they're all 3 playoff teams. The one thing I would say is the 49ers are not in the playoffs yet. They've got 9 wins. You've got a winning record. And I've been saying this throughout the year. I think there's going to be a 10-win team in the NFC that does not make the playoffs this year. Maybe 11.
Wow.
Maybe 11. So just look at it. Now, you'd have to look at how they play each other.
Right.
You know, how many more times has Green Bay played Minnesota? Have they played each other this year? I don't think they have yet.
I don't think they have either, no.
And then, you know, the 49ers got, you know, each one left with Seattle and the Rams. 1 to Seattle, 1 home. So, I mean, just look at it. I mean, I think the Rams aren't going away. They're better. And they got, you know, they're on pace for a 10-win year. So I think you could get double digits or maybe even 11 in the NFC and not make the playoffs this year. It's that competitive.
The Packers actually were both wrong. Packers defeated Minnesota at Lambeau 21-16 in Week 2. They face each other again Monday, December 23rd. The voice of the Raiders, the one, the only Greg Papa, whether it's touched. What did I say? What I say?
You said
I said the Raiders? Oh, my
Oh.
God. Oh, my God. I got to go outside, knock on wood, and spit 3 times or something. The longtime voice of the Raiders, the voice now of our San Francisco 49ers. My apologies, the legendary Greg Papa. We'll see you next week. Don't jump onto any tables, Greg.
No, I'm not going to do that. But I don't think I've said the R word during any 49er broadcast this year, have I?
That's good.
Which is amazing.
I think a couple of times, I think one time I almost called them the Warriors, which was weird. One time I got an R out, and then I quickly detoured it and used a word with an R to describe the 49ers. But
Nice.
I don't think I've even slipped yet, Dave. So you're down 1-0 in the battle there.
Yeah,
There you
you're a
go.
bigger pro than me. Shocker. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you so much to Greg Papa. He will talk to us again next week, and maybe he'll take a different route.
The Drive.